Welcome to a festive edition of Bury Our Bones With. As always, we are your Yuletide hosts, me, Ryan Etherington, and the I'll be home for Christmas to my I'm going to be late, I've forgotten the turkey, Santa Claus in waiting, Jimmy Murphy. In today's episode, we discuss the 1996 Brian Levant underrated Christmas turned superhero movie, Jingle All The Way. So get ready to join us as we spend some time getting wasted with some rat-ass reindeer, save the world from a megalomaniac that keeps his brain in some questionable liquid, and remember to keep our eye on our over-friendly neighbours' interaction with our wives. It's time to bury our bones with Jingle All The Way. For the first time ever, and against the advice of top industry executives, WXX Productions brings you all your favourite Hollywood stars' dating videos. From Sylvester Stallone.
I'm just looking for my Adrian to, help me get to the last round, for like moonlit strolls, ice rinks, meat factories, Russian ballet,
Is your favourite movie stars as you've never seen them before, unfiltered, unedited, and looking for love. When love comes a-calling, Hollywood needs a hero. Some might say an action hero.
Yeah, come on, do it. Date me now. I'm right here. Come on, do it. Date me now.
That's Hollywood Love Tapes from WXX Productions.
It's the end of December. When is this coming out?
This will be coming out on... So this episode will be coming out on a very Christmassy 20th of December. So right before timing, yeah. So right before the Christmas break for the vast majority of people. And I get the sense that you're not a big fan of Jingle All The Way.
What gave it away? I've never seen this film in its entirety until you made me watch it. And I'd seen bits of it, for sure, because it's always on telly around this time of year. I'd never seen it before. This was my first outing. And what a turd of a movie it is. I cannot believe you said to me, I really like Scrooge. Let's do Jingle All The Way in the same sentence. Right? It makes me question every opinion you have ever had and will ever have.
Well, let me give it a bit of context. Okay. So, Scrooge, that's what, 87?
Something like
88?
That. Yeah, it's late 80s, yeah.
So, how old would you have been when that came out?
It depends when it came out, but I would have been like 7 or 8. Probably,
okay. Yeah. So, it came out around your childhood. Yeah. So I'm guessing you've got warm, fuzzy, Christmassy, nostalgic feelings about Scrooge with Bill Murray.
I guess, yeah. So I'm also capable of being objective, though. Objectively, Scrooged is a great movie.
At no point...
I don't think the same can be said about Jingle All The Way.
At no point am I going to sit here and claim that it's a fantastic movie, that it's a great movie. It's very...
You're going to have to, because one of us has to enjoy this movie.
It's a very flawed movie, okay?
Yeah.
But for me, it represents Christmas to me. I can remember watching it when I was I think the first time I saw it was when I was around about 6 or 7. And at that time, that's who the film's aimed at. It's aimed at, essentially, people the same age as the child in the film, played by the same dude who plays...
Jake Lloyd, isn't it?
Jake Lloyd, young Anakin, okay? And for that reason, it's very nostalgic for me.
He's playing basically the same character he plays as young Anakin as well. It's the same shtick. It's very similar.
You can only ask a child to do so much, though, to be fair.
Has the same haircut.
Not quite.
I mean, he hasn't got the little rat's tail thing at the back, but apart from that, the haircut's the same.
I remember it being more of a bowl haircut in Phantom Menace.
Is it? Oh, fair enough.
Wow, you changed your opinion pretty quickly.
I think you might be right. I think he has got a bowl cut in Phantom Menace, yeah.
Yeah, listen, look, I'm not going to sit here and say it's on the par with films like Die Hard.
Or Scrooge.
With films like Scrooge. I'll admit, I've never been a massive Bill Murray fan.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I've never been a massive Scrooge fan, okay? A lot of elements of this film, for me, is just nostalgia, okay?
And Christmas is about nostalgia, to be fair.
There we go. Ha! See, you agree with me already. We're not even 5 minutes in.
Is that the end of the podcast?
I've achieved what I set out to achieve.
Am I off the hook now?
I feel for me.
I feel for you as well.
Arnold Schwarzenegger in a comedic family role is...
It's great stuff.
There we go. I mean, that's half the movie.
Not in this film, though.
He's pretty good. He's pretty funny in this movie. Put that cookie down! We talk about great lines in a family line. That's the equivalent of let off some steam, Bennett. It's the equivalent in the family spectrum. Put that cookie down! It's a good line. Okay. No matter how much it pains you, because I made you watch this film, it's a good line. It's flawed, yes. Is it gonna? Are the critics gonna love it? Is it gonna win an Oscar? No, it's not. But if you want a little bit of light-hearted family fun at Christmas, you can't go too wrong with Jingle All The Way. So there we have it. That was Bury Our Bones for this week.
Well, this film is fascinating from a certain point of view, which we will get into. I agree with you. It's flawed. It shouldn't be. That's what's so fascinating about it. You look at the pedigree of the people who made this film. Christopher Columbus is the producer, who's just like I think he mostly wrote a lot of great films like Gremlins and Goonies and things like that, but also has produced a chunk of great movies and directed a few. Arnold Schwarzenegger doing comedy roles. He can do comedy really well. The script makes sense. When I was watching it, I was very aware of this should be good. This has everything a great Christmas movie should have. It has that Home Alone feel to it. It's that sort of era, midnight. Was this 96? Sorry.
Let's have a look.
I think it's 96.
It was 1996, November 22nd. So a day and 20, 30, 28. I can't do quick maths, but almost.
Are you trying to count down to Christmas in your hair? out loud.
I'm trying to count down from 1996 to 2023.
Oh, okay. Right.
27 years almost to the day when it came out. 27 years ago tomorrow it came out.
It's the 20th December now. Ryan?
I've let the cat out of the bag. The mystique of the podcast has gone.
You mean this isn't live? We can edit that out. What was I going to say? I can't remember. Oh yeah, so it has everything. All of the elements in place. It should make this movie good. It should be a good movie, but it's not, and that is fascinating. It's like a pure example of when you know how like we often talk about lightning in a bottle. A great movie is lightning in a bottle. And there's that ineffable thing. You can't quite put your finger on it. It's just everything works. This film should be one of those films. This film has got everything to make it work, yet it doesn't work. And I was watching it and I can't quite work out what it is. I can only blame the director. There's something off with the direction. Maybe it's the editing. I don't know. Visually, it looks right. So it's not the cinematographer. It visually looks right. The storyline, it's got everything you want in a Christmas movie. That mania of the Cabbage Patch doll kid mania, got to get the toys kind of thing, and you know, a father trying not to disappoint his kid, and it's got a comedy cop who's the only cop in town who keeps turning up at all the wrong times. It's got Sinbad playing against type. He's great in this movie, to be fair. The character he's playing is really good for a children's Christmas movie, but it just doesn't hit right. It doesn't land right, and I think it's the direction. It's the only thing I can put my finger on is that it's down to the direction. But it's fascinating, and I'm sure we'll plod through this.
I definitely think it's a movie that you've got to learn to love. Like, I'll be honest, a lot of people disagree with me. I realise I'm in the minority here. You know, looking at the Rotten Tomatoes audience score 39%, and IMDb score of 5.7%. Yeah. So a lot of people dislike this movie, and
rightly so.
In your eyes, rightly so.
Well, it's funny because I think you'd already said you wanted to do Jingle All The Way, and I hadn't seen it. I was aware of it. I'd seen bits of it. I'd never seen the whole movie. I'd seen bits of it, and I found it annoying when I saw it on TV. But there's a difference. When you're in a mood to watch a movie, it's different, isn't it? So I went in like, no, I'm gonna give this. It could be good. It could be one of those movies you just always thought was rubbish, and it's not. But then I said to you were saying, oh, what's your choice? And I was kind of going to go with Gremlins. Then I couldn't decide whether I was going to go with Gremlins or Scrooged. And then I thought, I'm a Die Hard though, you know, which is where I ended up going. But I said to you, I was thinking about maybe doing Scrooge. And you said, fair warning, I'm not a big fan of that movie. And I thought, you're a fan of Jingle All The Way. And then I thought, well, I won't do Scrooge because we can't have the entire Christmas season of me and you just disagreeing about each movies. And then I thought, well, I might be wrong. It might be a good movie anyway. And if it's not, it'd be an interesting experiment because we normally agree on the movies we watch, more or less. I think our movie tastes are very much usually aligned. So you may be able to talk me around. I doubt it very much, having now watched this movie.
I have a feeling I have an uphill battle.
But you know me, I'm not going to just crap all over this movie for the sake of crapping all over it, because I do find it fascinating. I don't understand why it doesn't work, because it should. And it might be that I'm an old-ass man watching a children's Christmas film for the first time, you know? It could be as simple as that, but I honestly, everything, when I was watching it, everything felt like it needed another take. Like, I was like, just do that again. Just do that slightly different. And there's stuff in it that annoys me that we'll get to, you know. But it is mostly the choices that were made. So I guess it's not the actor's fault, it's the director's fault, I think. You know, I mean, Arnie's doing what Arnie does, but I just felt really aware that he was acting when I was watching it. Like, I couldn't, it didn't pull me in. It felt like I was watching someone act. It felt like it's going to sound slightly redundant, but it felt like I was aware I was watching a movie rather than disappearing into that movie.
Yeah,
do you know
you didn't get lost in it, in its narrative or its characters or whatever. I mean, one thing you did say that I actually do totally agree with is that it has all the makings to be. It's got all the components there, but for some reason it doesn't.
That's
for a lot of people, it doesn't quite fit together. And as I said, I've picked this movie not because I think it's a great Christmas movie. I've picked this movie because to me it sums up Christmas, because I can remember watching this around Christmas time. I think I might have just seen a Terminator or a Schwarzenegger film, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing him in this light, and suddenly this is a film that I'm allowed to watch, and I pretty much captivated by it. I came along at the time when things like the Turbo Man, Doll. I was into Power Rangers.
Turbo Man, that's very Power Rangers.
Very
esque, isn't it?
Even the villains are very Power Ranger-esque.
Yeah.
And that was my jam. When I was a kid, I was all about the Power Rangers to the point where I had all the figures and everything like that. Yeah. So it hit very much with me. And I think perhaps that's why you don't have that. Oh, 100%. That immediate connection.
There's certain movies that you watch as a kid that if you haven't seen them as a kid, when you watch as an adult, don't land for sure. Maybe this is one of those. Who knows? Turbo. That is my favourite thing in the whole movie when he says Turbo Man.
Give me the Turbo Man.
Turbo Man. Should we do the plot? Let's get to the plot.
Let's kick it off with the plot.
For those who don't know, see if they want to watch it.
Let's see if we can convince some others who perhaps haven't seen it that this is a film worth watching. Okay. Workaholic Howard Langston, Arnold Schwarzenegger, wants to make things up to his son, Jamie, Jake Lloyd, and wife Liz, Rita Wilson. He promises to get Jamie the hottest toy of the season, Turbo Man, even though it's Christmas Eve and the toy is practically sold out. As Langston hunts down the elusive gift, he runs into the mall man, Myron, played by Sinbad, another father on the same quest.
So that's not Mailman.
I need to get a light for this shit.
Like, mole man? What? Mole man. Is he a mole man? you little mole man.
He runs into the mailman, Myron, played by Sinbad, another father on the same quest. With the clock winding down, Langston's moral code is tested and he starts to learn the real meaning of Christmas.
Yeah, it's got that sort of, it's that wacky races. What's that famous film that they always remake where everyone's like trying to, like, bunch of wacky, it's kind of like Wacky Races, but they're all like looking for the gold. They remade it with Cuba Gooding Jr. It's got one of those titles like
Rat Race.
Rat Race, yes. It's that esque. It's got those sort of things. It's got all those Christmas elements thrown in. It's got the comedy family. It's got, Phil Hartman, and it's playing a real creep, but still somehow endearing. He's gross, but he's also that dude who does all their voices on The Simpsons. You know what I mean? It's yeah.
I was quite surprised when I was looking into, how this film was made and seeing some of the people who made it, because, as you said, Christopher Columbus
pedigree.
He's got
Christmas-esque films.
Home Alone.
Yeah.
It's Harry Potter, which is a very good... there's elements that are set at Christmas, but...
It's a Christmas movie, isn't it?
They're Christmassy type movies,
That's a movie that would be on TV at Christmas time.
Last year, me and my wife, we went, right, in the run-up to Christmas, every weekend, we're going to watch a Potter movie.
I've only ever seen one Harry Potter movie.
Fair enough. It is very much, if you're not into Potter, you're not going to get a lot out of it. So I was quite surprised to see that it had some real filmmaking pedigree behind it. It's not just a throwaway, or at least the people working on it aren't just throwaway. They're quite prestigious in their own right. And that's quite surprising, because it doesn't feel like doesn't feel like a Home Alone where you can tell everybody's at their kind of peak of in that kind of family Christmassy filmmaking. Joe Pesci's on point in that.
So good.
Macaulay Culkin is Macaulay Culkin.
Culkin. That came later, I think.
That's Home Alone.
Probably, sadly, not that long
15.
later. You know what I mean?
And Chris Columbus in that. Not in that, but working on that.
If as as Arnie, and they come to you and say, "We've got this movie. Who's it by? Who's involved?" And you see those names. You know what I mean? You're like, all right. You read the script. Oh, that's a really good script. Christopher Columbus is on board. Oh, it's classics. This is proper Hollywood pedigree stuff here, and this is what I want. I'm Arnie, and I want to do a Christmas movie, a family Christmas movie, because he likes to stretch himself in that way, doesn't he? He was a action star and bodybuilder for all that. He's always, obviously he pulled it off in Twins, was an amazing comedy movie with Danny DeVito. Kindergarten Cop, again, it's sort of that great movie. It's such a good movie. It's kind of in between an action and a comedy, but it's comedy action movie. Really good in that movie. And the party pooper. It's not a tumor.
I was just about to say that. And even the principal, who's like the tiniest principal, which is like into like karate.
Yeah, it's such a good movie. So he knows, he can do comedy. And Christmas movie makes sense. It makes sense. Everything about this movie makes sense until you watch it, and it just doesn't land. And I don't want to keep repeating. I probably will keep repeating. I do apologize. I'll try and think of another way of putting it. But yeah, it does. So that, like I say, to me is fascinating because it's just what happens sometimes. You can have all the right things in place and the movie can come out and it's not right. Sometimes it's in the edit. Sometimes it's in the director's choices, Visually, it should work. When you look at it, it looks like a Christmas movie. It has that same look as a Home Alone. Now, Home Alone's a weird Christmas film because it was so big. It was such a big movie. I guess because it could be set at any time of year. Like we were talking about this, it's basically Die Hard with a little kid, right? And that in itself, and it's comedy violence. It's that sort of Looney Tunes violence with paint cans and hot irons being dropped on people's heads that would murder them in real life. But in Home Alone, it's played for comedy value, and this has elements of that. There's stuff in this that is just clearly fantastical. There's a weird bit towards the end. Spoilers when Sinbad shoots his fist at Arnie dressed as Turbo Man. And then it reattaches and it's his hand again. And it's just like, that's amazing because it just makes absolutely no sense.
It's just off the wall bonkers. They didn't have to think that hard about it. It was like, oh, yeah, your hand comes off and then flies back to you. And, okay, that's fine.
I feel like at that point they were like, who cares? That's what I saw when I was like, who cares whether this makes sense? And I think maybe that's the problem. I think this film does lurch sometimes too far into the oh, come on kind of stuff. Or maybe it's just like you've seen these things too many times before. I don't know. Like the whole bit with the bomb in the radio station when it's not a bomb, but it turns out it is a bomb. Stuff like that, I don't know. I'm like, don't be daft. Do you know what I mean? Like, stuff, little things like that annoy me. Like, but weirdly enough, not the fist thing. The fist thing just made me go, "Wow, they've given up." Which at that point, I'm like, "Oh, okay, you've given up. I'm now on board with you. We've all agreed this has gone badly wrong, and no one cares anymore." You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting that we've just done Die Hard, and we spoke about in that episode how that had all the makings of a failure. With all the stuff paper, working against it. Yeah. And this is like the exact opposite from your eyes, is that it's got everything on it and it should work. And I'll be, as I said before, in some places it feels really forced and it feels a bit...
That's the word. It feels forced.
It's trying too hard a little bit.
It is, yeah.
I think part of the problem I found is that I remember snippets of it. And then when I sat down to watch it, I was like, I can do it. Like all of those individual scenes on their own, I think are great. It's when they're stitched together. It's that through line going all the way through the movie that doesn't feel like it quite fits together in the right way.
I think you're right. It's those moments that feel forced that really, and there's one too many of them, or two too many, or three too many, or four too many. It's just too. And there's weird things. It's going to be really weird this episode. I'm going to try not to just. I'm not trying to convince you that it's a terrible movie, but there's like weird choices. So there's that. There's the bit when he goes to the underground Santa's crime thing, right? Whatever that is, yeah. And he says to him, "Oh, you're just a bunch of thieves," or something like that. And he says, coming from a guy who just like, I don't know what it was, like wrestled a child for a bouncy ball or something. And Arnie looks down at his hat, starts fiddling with his hands, and looks ashamed of himself. It's it's so badly done. It's so I'm projecting sadness now. It's like they left it in. Not only it's in the shot cuts. Yeah, the shot cuts, and he's still doing it in the next. And it's like, no, and it's little things like that where I'm watching someone act badly, and like, no one's ever going to accuse Arnold Schwarzenegger of being a great actor. I think he's better than people think. I think he's I mean, you watch his early stuff. You watch like a Raw Deal. He really can't act in that movie. I mean, I think have we mentioned this before? He murdered mutilated, you know that bit in Raw Deal. You know the case.
Yeah.
He molested, murdered, and mutilated her. And it's just like his acting is so.
Do you realise the words you're saying right now? Because it doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, he's so wooden. And then you watch him get better. You watch him become a really good actor. And I think the sort of notion, if anyone, I don't know if they still have, but they used to have a notion of him not being a very good actor because he was, an action star. And I think that's unfair. I think he's a great actor. I think in this, he doesn't seem like a great actor. There's a moment in this where they're in the toy store. Is it with the bouncy balls? No, it's before the bouncy balls. So I'm after a Turbo Man dolls, and those two people start laughing in his face. Also annoys me, that scene.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That is the only scene that I, hands up, will say I literally could burn that the celluloid that is made on. I would burn that because it's the most... I mean... One of them is in an episode of Friends.
Is that where I've seen him from? Because I recognise. He's
the one who everybody he calls Chandler something else. Anyway, and he doesn't, and Chandler doesn't correct him. And the other one has just got a face that you just want to punch. And I think that's kind of the point. Yeah. But it's so annoying. So I could get rid of that. Like just remove it.
If it was shot differently, it would work.
It felt like fisheye lens, kind of almost a little bit too close. It feels almost a little bit, in a weird way, a little bit Clockwork Orange, and it's almost too much and very like.
Yeah,
this is actually quite freaky.
You can make that scene work. It just doesn't work in this film. But the bit that really annoys me after that, right, is when he uses the remote control to trip up Sinbad's character. And it's like he's never picked up a remote control in his life. You know, like when you see people pretending to play computer games on TV and they're sort of going, randomly pressing buttons and turning the thing and
pressing every button every time.
Yeah, it's like that, but he's only got two things to move. But it's like it's so bad.
He's also incredibly gifted at controlling remote control cars when you can't see them because they've gone round corners.
Yeah. Like weirdly, that doesn't bother me. The suspension of disbelief about that. It's the acting that goes along with it, where he's like, I am controlling a car. You know what I mean? I'm like, and the film is full of moments that makes me feel like, was that the rehearsal? And like, did you lose the footage and go, we'll just use that take? It felt like everything needed another take, another angle, and a little less. Now, I assume they were swinging for the fences. It's a Christmas movie. It's a comedy. Swing for the fences. As like, generally speaking, the best comedies are played straight, even when you're playing them like a Looney Tunes sort of thing, when it's that kind of crazy, hyper-realised, over-the-top stuff. An element of like just grounding in it usually pays off. This movie just doesn't seem to have that. But it does have Arnold saying Turbo Man quite a lot, which is good. You know?
Put that cookie down!
Yeah.
Great line.
Yeah.
I will die on that hill. I don't care. It's essentially let off some steam, Bennett, for a family film. Yeah. I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times.
Also at the end when he's got the Turbo Man mask on and his own wife doesn't recognise him, it's kind of annoying.
If you don't recognise that jawline, then
his kid's a moron, I'll let it go.
Yeah, like I'm not going to lie, if you can't recognise that jawline, you need to go and get some glasses, because I could recognise that from 4 miles away. Yeah, he's not exactly inconspicuous, is he?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And that thick accent.
Yeah. Jamie! I wonder who that could be.
He knows my name.
Where have I heard that voice before? You know. So, in terms of the figures and the money that was pumped into this film,
really?
Because the money was pumped into this film.
Because on paper, it should be an amazing film.
It had a budget of $60 million.
My bad, I apologise.
$60 million. I get it's a Christmas film. I get you have to push for the fences, but $60 million. To compare, that's double the budget of Die Hard and plus $4 million on. You know, I know there's a 7-year difference.
There's a lot of exterior shots and things like that in this. Well, probably all shot on a lot, but you know what I mean? There's a lot of locations in this movie.
So a lot of...
And a reindeer that gets punched in the face.
I love it. I seriously love it. The reindeer had it coming.
Yeah. Which I think is a throwback to Conan, because he does it to Camel in Conan. Conan Mamemium.
Sounds like a B movie, doesn't it?
Which I would rather have watched than this one.
Well, I mean... So yeah, $60 million to make the film. In its opening weekend, it made $12 million back, which is... I mean,
good start, is it?
If it had a smaller budget, that would be great. But obviously, it's got $60 million budget.
Yep.
I think, obviously, the parcel of the time it came out, November 22nd, 1996, everybody's going to see a Christmas movie. Families, let's just go and see a family Christmas movie. So you could probably release, much worse films than this. I know you say it's pretty bad, but much worse films than this. I'm talking the Room level types of, quality here in Christmas form. Hallmark, Christmas Channel type movie. And they would still probably make pretty decent return on the box office, because it's that time of year where families spend a lot of time together and they go and watch movies. It's so...
We've spoken about this movie before. It's the Ben Affleck, James Gandolfini Christmas movie. Is it Christmas with the Cranks? Yeah. Cranks, something like that. That's also suffered with the same problems. Where, like, Ben Affleck, say what you like about Ben Affleck's acting, I've never seen it so bad as I have in that movie. Gandolfini's great, as always. Ben Affleck can't act in that movie, and he can act perfectly reasonably normally. It's like, I don't know what it is. Maybe there's something about Christmas movies. There's something that actors or directors or whoever it is, when they come to do a Christmas movie, they think it's like, well, the reins are off now. It's free for all time. You know what I mean? Because like you said, they pumped so much money into this movie because of the pedigree, because on paper it makes so much sense. And you release a movie at Christmas, people are going to go to watch a Christmas movie at Christmas. I love a Christmas movie. I really do. And I like that. I kind of like rom-coms secretly. I just, I don't ever bring it up much.
It's all coming out now, isn't it?
Yeah, but I like a bit.
I mean,
I have a softer side.
The Hugh Grant posters in here are a bit of a giveaway. So it's going to make a fair chunk of change at the box office at Christmas time. Domestically, US and Canada, it made back its budget, but only just over 60 million. So not a success at the US box office.
No, like as we always say as well, they usually, whatever the budget of the film is usually the same for the advertising as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And then in terms of the gross worldwide, 129 million. Which
probably broke even on it then by the all said is done.
Probably that's about right. So that is about 103 million in 1996.
How much of that 60 million was Arnie's fee? Right.
I reckon about a third, probably.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's got to be 20 million.
Yeah.
It's got to be. So you're probably actually looking at more of a 40 million budget once you take Arnie out of the equation. It's still a ridiculous amount of money, isn't it?
I mean, it's surprising that much money was spent on this, because it doesn't feel like a $60 million film. Obviously, we've done a few of these episodes now.
It really doesn't. No,
we're looking at, how much films have cost to make. And out of all the films, okay, we've got inflation, etc., etc. Out of all the films, apart from The Dark Knight, this is the highest budgeted film that we've covered so far.
Is that right?
And when you think of it...
This film. Not The Fly. You know what I mean?
Obviously, wow. I'm not entirely sure, adjusted for inflation, but this is about 90 million today. 90 million crazy, quid on this film. And as we mentioned, it was directed by Brian Levant.
Yeah, I had to have a look at other stuff he directed, so I could get a handle for what sort of, like, is this standard for his general production? You know what I mean? There wasn't much in there I recognised, really. There was a few bits.
He'd done the Flintstones.
That's right, yeah.
He'd done the 2005 comedy with Ice Cube, Are We There Yet?
Oh, yeah. It's probably about the same standard as this. Really. Yeah. I'm not sure I've seen the Flintstones either, but... I know that was much maligned when it came out, wasn't it?
We've got Randy Cornfield writing the script here. He's worked on stuff like Sweet Revenge, and Eight-Legged Freaks, the comedy horror with David Arquette.
That's it, yeah.
We've got Michael Barnathan, Chris Columbus and Mark Ratcliffe as the producers. Obviously, we mentioned Chris Columbus, very, very successful in his own right. Mark Ratcliffe also worked on things like Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Fantastic Four, the 2005 film, The Help, Home Alone as well, he worked on with Chris Columbus. And then Michael Barnathan, Night at the Museum, 2006, and again The Help. So that, accomplished filmmakers. They're not
100%
fly-by-night, first film, don't know what I'm doing type thing.
It's interesting you say like the budget of the movie and with the pedigree of the people working on it. It feels like I can't see where that money went. I just can't. Like, it looks like a TV movie, but a very expensive TV movie. It doesn't look like a cheap TV movie, but it doesn't look much more than that, really. And like you say, like accomplished writers, producers, directors, actors. Yeah.
We've got the score that's composed by David Newman. He's worked on things like The War of the Roses in 1989, The Nutty Professor in 1996, and 2002 Scooby-Doo. Right. And then we've got the cinematographer is Victor J. Kemper.
Yeah, I feel like the director directed some of the Scooby-Doo straight-to-TV movies, I think. Yeah. I'm sure I saw that on his ID. So, he did Scooby-Doo, and then I looked, I was like, hang on a minute. That's not Scooby-Doo. That's straight-to-TV Scooby-Doo, You
can't afford to get Matthew Lillard again. Let's get Matthew Lillard light.
Yeah.
Victor J. Kemper is the cinematographer who worked on Clue, the Tim Curry film.
I quite like
based
that
on
movie.
the board game. And then bad. National Lampoon's Vacation.
Some of those are all right, yeah.
So...
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is a better movie than this.
I can't say I've seen it. Not a fan of Chevy Chase.
Oh, he is quite an appalling human being.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be fair, that's not the reason I don't watch his films.
He was a huge star of the 80s, though.
He was in everything, wasn't he?
He was in everything, yeah.
He was right at the boom period of Saturday Night Live. And,
playing the same character and everything as well. Plays himself as far as I can work out.
He's in Hot Tub Time Machine.
Now a grumpy, old, probably racist, I think, from what I've heard. Apologies if I'm wrong. I think isn't that why he got the sack from Community?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Allegedly.
And then, so not only accomplished filmmakers, but we've got accomplished people in the film as well. Obviously, Arnold Schwarzenegger, as we spoke about. We've got Sinbad, a stand-up comic. And when you put a stand-up comic in a film, they're usually pretty good. And Sinbad, I think you said earlier, is pretty good in this.
Yeah, I think he's
although you're not a fan of the film as a whole, he's pretty good in it.
Yeah, he's good in this movie.
We've got Rita Wilson playing Liz Langston.
It's Tom Hanks' wife, isn't it?
Tom Hanks' wife.
Yeah. So I know her. This is that part is the part of the podcast where I bring up Frasier. It happens every other episode, I think, isn't it? She plays Frasier goes out with her for an episode in Frasier. Is it
Frasier?
It's in Frasier. Okay. Yeah. He goes out for an episode and he doesn't realise she's the spitting image of his mother. So in later episodes, she then plays his mother in flashbacks as well. It's quite a nice touch, isn't it? Everybody else around him is like, does he not realise? And they're like, no. And then, eventually he does, and the comedy ensues. But yeah, so she turned up in this, and I went, it's Frasier's mum, which is, seems to be a common thread with me. And then I think when I was looking on IMDb, I was like, what have I seen? Where do I know her from other than being Frasier's mum? And I was, that's Tom Hanks' wife, isn't it? Of course it is. Penny didn't drop. Every time I see her, she's just Frasier's mum to me. But that's it for Frasier Watch for this episode.
That's a segment that's coming up. A fake little Frasier tune.
Seriously, it might just be that Frasier was on TV for like 10, 12 years or whatever. 12 years, I think.
Yeah.
So most actors will have passed through it at some point. But they do seem to pop up quite a lot.
Yeah, I keep getting told about them in podcasts.
Yeah, that have nothing to do with Frasier. Classic movies and TV.
Featuring Frasier. We've got Robert Conrad playing Officer Hummel.
Yeah.
We have Martin Mull playing the DJ, who, for people of my age, probably a lot of people remember him as the principal from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Is it Mr. Feeney? Is that his name?
Yes, yeah, Mr. Feeney.
Is that right? Or is that Boy Meets World? I think Mr. Feeney might be Michael Knight's Cars voice dude, Mr. Feeney. Yeah, that dude, funny enough, plays... This is tangentially as it might still be on Netflix, a comedy dramatization about the creators of National Lampoon, and he plays one of the creators of National Lampoon opposite someone, Joe McHale playing Chevy Chase. Which is, I think it's Joe McHale plays Chevy Chase, which is funny because he was in Community as well, right? I might be confusing a lot. I might be mixing a lot of streams here. But yeah, he plays the dude who basically co-created National Lampoon in a TV show.
He also starred
he's very good in it.
As the questionable doctor in 2.5 Men. He was a recurring character in that. He used to supply Charlie's character with his... prescription medication.
Is that right? I don't remember him in it.
And then we've got some pretty cool cameos. We've got Jim Belushi playing the main Santa in the film. What I love about that scene, I know you said about the acting in it. One of the things I like about Friends is when they take a situation and they apply the tropes of another situation to it.
Yeah.
So what I like about this situation is the way that they're acting like this is a drug deal, and all it is they're just trying to get this toy, but it's like, okay, you need show me the money. It's very and I like that in my comedy. Friends does it an awful lot, and it's very good at it. It's not quite as good here, but I quite like it.
Yeah, I've got a real soft spot for Jim Belushi though.
I really like Jim Belushi.
He gets a lot of stick for not being John Belushi as far as I can
not his fault, is it? Like, I can understand his mum and dad feeling that way if he's not the favourite child, but everybody else is like, it's not his fault, is it? He's been in a couple of things recently where he's quite good.
He's been in some stuff. He's quite good. Yeah, I think we found the problem.
I think he plays like a mafia boss in something. But
I like Jim Belushi. I like Jim Belushi doing comedy. He's great in Red Heat opposite Arnie as well, which is probably why he's in this movie, is a little sort of like nod and a wink to that other movie.
Obviously,
Red Heat, which is a great movie. Unlike this.
Every movie you mention, you don't have to say your thoughts on it, okay? We can just mention the movie and move on.
It's a great movie. Unlike this.
I'm not disagreeing that Red Heat is a great movie.
How do Russians cope with stress? Vodka.
We've got Jake Lloyd as Jamie Langston.
Jake Lloyd. Much put upon Jake Lloyd, I should say. Poor sod.
I think he gets an awful lot of stick, and I don't think it's his fault, really.
Can't be his fault. He's a kid.
It's even his performances. Like, I know everybody hates him in Phantom Menace.
Yeah, it's not his fault.
But I don't even think he's that bad. I've seen films with worse kid actors in it.
No, the problem is he wasn't right for the part. That's not his fault. And the problem was he was given shit dialogue. That's also not his fault. And terrible direction. Not his fault. He's perfectly serviceable in this movie. He plays his role incredibly well. He's a perfectly reasonable actor, and he's a kid. It's not his fault. The whole thing with Star Wars is like, it's a Star Wars thing. Talk to Jar Jar Binks about it. Talk to anyone who's been in a Star Wars movie past the original 3. You know what I mean? Like, this comes up quite a lot, doesn't it? Where it's like, and I always say, there's the famous saying is, no one hates Star Wars like a Star Wars fan. I feel bad for Jake Lloyd. He took it all on his shoulders, and it wasn't his fault. You know what I mean? I personally don't think he was right for the role of Anakin Skywalker.
Ewan McGregor got off scot-free, didn't he?
Yeah.
You know, Liam Neeson doesn't get a touch on it. Everyone's like, "Oh, Qui-Gon Jinn, he's great in this."
No, he's not. There's nothing good about that movie. It's a terrible movie. But you know, I've seen it many a time. Actually, no, Darth Maul, he's pretty good in that movie. You know what I mean? But it's not Jake Law's fault. But it's like always the case with things. Like when fans have a problem with the direction a franchise moves in, it usually gets landed at someone's doorstep. And unfortunately for Jake Lloyd, it landed at his. I mean, he had to go through the rest of his life as a kid being told he ruined Star Wars. Like, it's just there's no need for it. And like, he's not a bad actor. And he's definitely not bad in this movie. He's great in this movie. You know,
he does everything you need a child actor to do.
Yeah,
you know,
he conveys emotion like that when he's having a go at his dad on the phone. He conveys the emotion. At no point are you sitting there going, "He can't do that. It's rubbish." That, you know, it just doesn't happen. I feel for the kid. You know what I mean?
And another little cameo we have, if you know what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. So in the same scene with all the Santas, we have obviously the big Santa, which is played by Paul White, the Big Show of wrestling.
I knew it. I didn't know who it was. I couldn't work it. I purposely didn't look it up because I was like, oh, that's someone famous. That's going to be a wrestler of some degree.
If you're not a wrestling fan and you're struggling to picture who we're talking about, he also plays Captain Insano in Happy Gilmore.
Also a great movie. Unlike this.
And I watched this film when I was just getting into wrestling as well.
I have to say, until recently, even though he was recently rude to me, Captain Insano.
Is it wrong that your Adam Sandler impression sounds like Jimmy Fallon doing an Adam Sandler impression? Which is a pretty good impression.
It was the devil to you, mama. Football, not the devil. I like Vicky Valencar. She showed me her boobies. I like those too. Captain Insano, you're like a big choo-choo train.
Right, he plays cats. That's amazing. It also has Vern Troyer,
yes,
Mini-Me,
yeah,
in a almost blink and you'll miss it performance. Yeah,
and as I say, I like that. I think that scene's great. I mean, I know obviously we're going to say about favourite scenes, but I'll talk about a little bit more about why later on. But that's a shoehorn, along with a couple of others for my favourite scene. So let's have a look at some casting trivia. We have a little bit of casting trivia.
Love a bit of casting trivia.
So producer Chris Columbus wanted,
I think I know this,
Joe Pesci to play Myron.
Yeah,
the
which
mailman.
Makes perfect sense. It's essentially his Home Alone character again, isn't it? Yeah, I mean,
but he was deemed.
You can see it. I could see it. Too short, right?
Too short. Which isn't that just comedy? I mean, it worked in Twins. You've got that. You've got another element of comedy
as
to
Danny
work
DeVito.
there.
That's for
no, but you know, you can play off of that. But then you've got Sinbad.
I think he would have been brilliant in it. I could proper see Joe Pesci in this movie.
Yeah,
100%.
I can see him doing that
movie.
I can see him doing the bomb scene.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, Joe Pesci's got good comedy chops. You know what I mean?
He's great in the Lethal Weapon films.
Leo, yes.
Okay, whatever.
They F you at the drive-thru. Okay. Whatever. You like these silk pajamas? You like these silk pajamas?
Have you ever heard Joe Pesci's rap album?
What?
Oh, dude, after this, I'll show you it on YouTube. Yeah, he released a rap album.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my God. I know what I'm asking for
to the
Christmas.
O to the E to the P.
Yeah, it's quite spectacular.
In the role of Howard Langston, before, obviously, Schwarzenegger took the role, there was some considerations from...
Howard. Sorry.
Tim Allen.
Oh, yeah.
Which...
Yeah, I mean...
He obviously done Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Very successful.
He did that after this, I'm guessing, Santa Claus, around the same time.
Santa Claus, I think, was slightly earlier. I want to say 93, potentially.
You're my number one customer. I don't know why he's got a lisp.
Yeah, that isn't Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's, you've been up far too long. You need some caffeine.
Yeah, but sometimes we discussed as well, sometimes when doing an Arnold, you have to be really careful doing an Arnold impression because it goes sideways real quick. You know what I mean?
Remember, you're my number one customer.
Is that better?
Slightly. I'll accept it. So, this isn't quite casting, but how Arnold Schwarzenegger ended up getting the role.
They gave him $20 million.
Well, it was offered to him after the development on a remake of Planet of the Apes basically fell apart.
Was he going to be in a Planet of the Apes?
No, I don't know if that's the same Tim Burton Planet of the Apes.
That's like early noughties. Yeah, sometimes it can take that long.
But there was a remake of Planet of the Apes that he was, I don't know if it was a passion project of his, but he was interested in, and it fell through. And so 20th Century Fox said, have this.
Have $20 million.
I think it was more the $20 million rather than have this film, because
$20 million, we're only that would explain it. They probably shot it in like 2 weeks, hence all the bad acting choices. Oh, that makes a lot more sense. They're just giving him $20 million.
You know, it's...
Yeah, get your goddamn filthy ape hands off of me. Yeah. You did it, did you? You destroyed it all. Yeah.
Okay.
You did it. Damn you all to hell.
No?
So another reason potentially as to why you feel this film may...
I'm warming to this film now, actually.
See? It's all it takes. Talk about it for however long we've been talking about it.
Nearly an hour.
Fall in love. So there was some little bit of controversy in regards to the script. So in March 2001, a US district attorney in Birmingham, Michigan, ruled that 20th Century Fox stole the script idea from Detroit High School biology teacher Brian Webster.
Brian.
You say any name in that voice, and he just sounds like a wet drip, doesn't he?
Brian's such a good name to go. Brian. Right, Brian.
So the studio was ordered to pay $19 million, which was later reduced to $1.5 million, which is still pretty decent for a high school biology teacher. Yeah. Webster submitted the script, and it was originally supposed to be called Could This Be Christmas? To the studio in 1994. So it's another example of corporate greed, stealing from would-be writers, performers, and what have you. But he seems like he got his some of his rewards, $1.5 million, obviously in terms of how much the film made.
I thought they then got it completely reversed. I thought they gave him nothing in the end.
It was reduced to $1.5 million.
No, after
apparently.
I'm sure that they then appealed it and said, no, we had this script just lying about before he sent that in. Mysteriously found it at the last minute and it had it reversed. I could be wrong. I might be confusing two different things. I'm sure that's right. I think he thought he was getting 15, then he thought he was getting 1.5, and then he got, happy Christmas, Brian.
Brian, what are you getting for Christmas?
Happy Christmas, Brian. You're getting nothing.
Should we stick on Jingle All The Way, Brian?
I hope he got his 1.5.
Yeah, because
especially if they stole it off him, which is kind of what they do. It's a shite business.
It's a shit business.
It's a shit business, Brian. It's a shit film, Brian.
It's a flawed film. I'm not saying it's a shit film. So you mentioned it earlier. So the story is obviously kind of loosely based on the Cabbage Patch Kids craze.
Oh, the 80s.
It basically not stole that idea, but that's the genesis for that idea, isn't it? And we said earlier, how much was he paid for this? And there's a reason why I said 20 million, because I've got it here in my notes.
Wow. Didn't they also accurately predict by sheer happenstance the 1996 Christmas craze for Tickle Me Elmo, where everyone ran out of Tickle Me Elmos the same year this movie came out?
However, it ended up perfectly mimicking the Tickle Me Elmo craze of Christmas in 1996.
Sorry, you moved on to like $20 million. So I thought you'd gone past it.
Only because I was reading it. I was like, I don't know what that means. And then you said it.
Elmo.
Yeah.
You know who Elmo is, though, right? Sesame Street.
I know who Elmo is.
That's quite a good impression.
I was playing Corey.
Tickle Me Elmo.
I bet it's quite a good impression.
It's weird coming out of your face. Not gonna lie.
Most things that come out of my face are weird.
That just took a dark turn.
That's got a bit weird.
Brian.
That is Lord Brian.
Yeah, so what is the Tickle Me Elmo craze then? Trying to move on past the creepiness.
That is Lord Brian. Darth Brian.
Do it.
I think you'll find the Death Star for the Operation O'Brien.
Oh, God. You change your name or something.
Kill him, Brian, fulfill your destiny.
Brian.
Brian.
So explain to me without doing a silly voice.
So in 1996, a load of Tickle Me Elmo dolls accidentally had Emperor Palpatine's voice recording put in them. So when you would hug them, he would go, "Lies, Lord Brian." And they had to record that. Lies. I can't think of any other characters from Sesame Street. Lies. Oscar the Grouch. Doesn't quite work, does it? Big Bird. That just sounded creepy. Exactly the same thing that happened with the Turbo Man doll. Tickle Me Elmo randomly became the gift to have at Christmas. There wasn't enough. And exactly as you see in Jingle All The Way happened that year for Tickle Me Elmos in Toys R Us. And
fair enough.
Very prescient, very of the time.
I believe that the casting of Anthony Hopkins in the role of Dr. Fraser Crane will go down in history as one of the great casting mistakes of the last century. Who do we have on line one, Roz? On line one, we have Bill from Buffalo. He's just not feeling himself. Well, hello, Bill. I'm listening. Yes, Dr. Crane. I would just like to know, would you me? Would you me real hard?
Life lessons for me, Matthew McConaughey. Come with me if you want to live. Life lesson number 3. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you're looking for a ransom, I can tell you, I don't have money. But what I do have is a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you let my daughter go now, that'll be the end of it. I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
So my next note just says, Arnold Schwarzenegger enjoyed the film.
And the 20 million.
He experienced last-minute Christmas shopping himself and was attracted to playing an ordinary character in a family film.
Yeah, fair enough. Like I say, he likes to stretch himself, old Arnie, doesn't he?
He's never happy with just sitting where he's sitting. He has to be moving forward. If you've seen the recent Netflix documentary, move forward, move forward, move forward. It's kind of what he says quite a lot. Keep moving forward.
Is that right? Is that his catchphrase?
I don't know if it's his catchphrase.
I thought it was ready to be back. No.
Yeah, I can't see him wearing T-shirts of keep moving forward. I think he's got some other lines he could probably market a bit better.
Wrong.
But that's his kind of mindset, I think, is the... So apparently Arnold Schwarzenegger's agent was the one who suggested Sinbad, but the producers felt he was unsuited to the role of a villain, as it could harm his clean, family-orientated comedy act and reputation.
Like, they can't. Who thought that? The producers or
The
his
producers,
agent?
yeah.
They're morons. That doesn't make any sense. It's a family film. He's playing a family villain. There's nothing. I mean,
they spent 60 million on a bloody film like that. So
I hope he got a chunk of that. You know?
Yeah, Sinbad felt the character would generate the audience's sympathy rather than hatred.
Yeah, I think he was right.
Sinbad improvised the majority of his lines.
Did he?
Arnold Schwarzenegger also improved. Improvised, not improved, because that's up for debate, as any listener will have from this.
I will be back.
He improvised many of his responses in his conversations with him. So, and not the tip.
That's probably the best bits of the film. That's weird. Like, because the interaction, so it was mostly improvised.
He's a stand-up comic, though, isn't he? So,
no, but Arnie's not.
No, but if you've got...
Do you know what I mean? But the fact that like, they were largely improvised in those scenes, I wouldn't say they're the best thing in the film. It might be the best thing in the movie. Yeah, that's interesting, man. Yeah.
So the Turbo Man doll was
Turbo Man.
Almost going to be named Turbo Tom.
Okay, fair enough.
And unfortunately, this is the final theatrical film release starring Phil Hartman as for anybody who doesn't know, he was unfortunately shot and killed by his
wife, wasn't it? His girlfriend.
His girlfriend, yeah. Tragically shot and killed. Yeah. It's very, very nasty stuff. And I think he's just great in this movie. I as you said earlier, he's really creepy. He's a bit handsy. He's a bit
gropey,
too much. Yeah. But he does it with this kind of Ned Flanders-esque kind of, here we go. And
it's the voice of Troy McClure as well. Isn't it?
I'm Troy McClure.
Yeah. Apparently he was a really nice bloke in real life, Phil Hartman. He's there again. He's a repugnant character. Played very well though. Played for comedy value.
Yeah, and I think some of the joy of that
the
character
freedom to be repugnant
is the playing off of Rita Wilson as well. You know, I think if you've got somebody who's not very well accomplished, you've got to feed off of those kind of reactions to really get the humour out there. And Rita Wilson does that perfectly. She's like, can he please go away now?
She does play. Yeah, it's very real. Her character is very realistic in that way of how. I don't think that's how those things would be handled now by anyone involved. But I think that's sort of like exasperated. Oh, you're a bit of a lech, but I'm not going to make a fuss kind of thing. Is that sort of it seems to ring true. Great bit of acting.
So some of the discussion points I've got. So I've just got a statement here. So bad it's good.
Said who?
Or so bad it's bad.
Oh, you're asking me.
I think I know the answer to this.
This film is asinine beyond all belief.
Say what you really mean. Don't hold back.
Let's have a look at what I wrote. Let's have a quick look through some of the notes I've made. Power Rangers, Frasier's mum. Arnold looks old. Unfair,
really going in depth with the analysis there.
Yeah. Well, the cookies line is written down in here, so there you go.
And what does it say about the cookies line?
Cookies. That's what it says. So you are vindicated there, man. I wrote, I don't think he was on time, which is a weird problem to have.
You don't think he was on time?
I would have been on time, but I got stopped for speeding. You didn't get stopped for speeding. You got stopped for driving down that hard shoulder. But you wouldn't have been on time. You were going to be late anyway. For some reason, I took great umbrage with that when I was watching it. Punches a reindeer. Kicks Dunbar in the nuts. I think that's supposed to say Sinbad. I think I got auto-corrected. Mentions Christmas Club, Mini-Me. Yeah, that's about it. That's about all the notes I made. Arnie looks old. That seems so bitchy.
I think that's where all this animosity started. You weren't happy that Arnie looks old in this movie.
I've written asinine down there as well.
There you go.
Yeah. Also, there you go. Got on paper should be good, but it isn't. I've also written. Do I think this film is so bad it's good, or rather just bad? I think it's just a bad movie. I really do. It perplexes me as to why it's bad. Like as I've already said, it can only be the direction. It can only be. Right, I wonder how long they spent filming it. It doesn't feel like long enough. It feels like everything needed another take.
I believe it was around about a month.
That's quite short.
Yeah, for the kind of set pieces and stuff they were doing. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not sit in a room, have some comedy, let's choreograph that. There's big set pieces in this. So a month is not a lot of time to make it. As I say, it is flawed. I mean, I've got some bits that I just want to point out.
Yeah, you carry on. Yeah.
So
I've warmed to it over
Thank you.
Yeah.
Carry on.
It almost sounded like you're apologising. I do have to talk more about this film. I'm sorry. I actually think I've warmed to it slightly over doing this podcast. So
there you go. And I think it is a film that
it's gifted me the ability to talk about it for over an hour about how rubbish it is. So, yeah.
I do feel the more you watch the film, the better it gets. If you create happy memories with this film, then it becomes nostalgic and it becomes all the things that you... Because that's the thing. I mean, what do you want from a Christmas movie? What?
Anything other than what they've given me. Okay, hang on now. I will... That's a reasonable... No, that's an unreasonable answer. What do I want from a Christmas movie? I want Hans Gruber being thrown out of the Yakatomi Towers. You don't like Scrooged then? I want Bill Murray. That's not in there. I haven't finished. I want Bill Murray. Just every film I don't mention, is that what you're going to point out? I want a bit of schmaltz. I want a bit of character arc, like Scrooge kind of character arc. When you talk about Scrooge, that sort of thing. I like snow in a Christmas movie. I like Home Alone's a great Christmas movie. Anything like that. What are the Gremlins? There you go. I want little gremlins in a Christmas movie. What do I want from a Christmas movie? It's really hard to say. It's really hard to be real, because if you told me Jingle All The Way on paper, like we're saying, you said, I'll be like, that's what I want out of a Christmas movie. But what I'm receiving is not what... It doesn't work for me. You know what I mean? I think there's an element of a cynical nature. I'm not going to lie. I think because some of the things you mentioned there. Yeah, but I like... What's that Dudley Moore Santa Claus movie, right? This is about... I like that. It's a good movie. It's like... It's the terrible low-budget Christmas schmaltz. You know what I mean? I can't say I've seen that. Yeah. I think you have to see it as a kid. Probably, in a similar sort of vein. You know what I mean? Which I did. Sorry, you were saying anyway. You were telling me why I'm wrong for hating this movie. I'm not saying you're wrong. Okay, I'm calling me cynical, jaded old man. I think there is an element of that. I think part of the problem when we do these episodes is because we've picked it to talk about it for a podcast episode. We're looking for things to talk about. We're looking for... I think there's an element of when you probably watch this thinking, why has he picked this film? Why does he like this film? Maybe not actively, but there's perhaps a little element of that. I 100% went, that's a terrible movie. What's he thinking? But you hadn't even seen it. And then, and then 100% honestly went, you've never seen the movie. Like, sit down and give it a chance. Like, don't be... And I'm quite capable of doing that. And I'm like, no, I could be wrong. This could be a great movie. It's not like... I think perhaps... Or at least not for me. Your initial...
obviously your initial opinion was not a great movie, and then obviously you go, oh no, give it a chance. But it's very hard to get over that initial impression. I'm not saying you're not capable.
Not for me.
Some people are capable of that higher level of thought.
Yeah, no, if it's a good movie, it's a good movie. I'd like, you know what I mean? I've been wrong about movies before, and I've revisited movies that I thought were crap and come back to them and gone, actually, no, you're wrong. That's a good movie. You know what I mean? Sometimes movies land, sometimes they don't.
How long do you reckon I'll have to wait until you come back and wait? You know, I rewatched Jingle All The Way. It's a good movie. I'm not saying it's a great movie. Let's get that. I think it's a good Christmas movie.
I'll give it another go next year. How about that? I'll give it another go next year. Now I'm over the disappointment and I'll see what I think. It'd be really interesting to me, genuinely, if the next time I watch it, I think, actually, it's not that bad. Because it's possible. It is possible that it just didn't land right. I
think there's some fantastic comedic moments in here. So, in the shop when they're saying, we've run out of Turbo Man, and all the people there are like, oh no, up in arms. But we've got his friend Booster.
That's it.
And then they have, I think it's in the same scene, they have a guy dressed up as Booster, and all the kids start beating him up. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
You know?
Because it's very true to life, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like,
No,
do you know what I mean? Like, no one wants the sidekick toy.
No, nobody does, do they? It's always everybody wants the Batman. Nobody wants the Robin.
Well observed, isn't it?
You know. So, as I say, we mentioned it's definitely a parody of Power Rangers. I think Power Rangers.
It's definitely in there, isn't it?
Was Power Rangers around at the time? I think it was probably just around 90.
I want to say Power Rangers is like 94.
Yeah, this is 96. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. So
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
You know, it has the moral of the story, and yes, it's forced in some way. I think, as you said, the scene where he's being told by the slightly shady Santa Claus is that, you know, this coming from the guy who's just fought a child over a bouncy ball, and the somewhat questionable acting, but you've got that character arc. Okay, it may not be the most sophisticated character arc, but you see him go from the put in work first, you're my number one customer.
Thank you. I was about to do that.
And then the shocked, you know, over the top reaction he gets when he realises that's his wife he's talking to.
Yeah,
Does he talk to his wife like that at home?
Yeah.
And we see him go from being that guy who's always late, I've got to get to Jamie's karate recital, or in an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. You know, when you start something.
I saw you lose confidence halfway through. It was great. I was like, I know where this is ending.
A look of sheer terror.
The thing with Arnie impressions is best to keep it to like 2 or 3 words. Like, most people, myself included, most people can get about 3 or 4 words out, and then it goes Jamaican. It's just like you just lose it. It's impossible.
So he goes from that guy.
What guy?
I've got to get to Jamie's karate recital.
That was a little better, actually. That was a little better.
I've said it once.
It's the recital.
I'm not going to do it again.
No, I'm not going to attempt it.
He goes from that guy who, let's face it, if we were in Jamie's position, we would feel like, oh, Dad's not here again.
What would you know about keeping your promises? You never do anything you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
That's an actual line from the film.
Yeah, I know.
But I hate this film.
Hey, it's sitting with you. It's sitting with you.
It's had an impact.
Yeah. He goes from that guy to being the coolest man.
To going to Turbo Man.
Turbo Man.
Turbo Man.
To being his son's hero, you know. And okay, you can question how he gets there and the fact that it glosses over it, and, you know, we see him do some questionable things, you know, trying to stealing a toy from a little boy or whatever the line is. These are getting less and less like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Arnold Schwarzenegger reads Dr. Seuss. That's what I want from Christmas, right? Yeah, I mean, obviously, like the subtext is about how Christmas has become a consumer fest, which in itself is kind of interesting when you really think about it. It's not a novel concept. It's a very very base level 2 o'clock in the afternoon student thought. You know what I mean? But how did Christmas become about consumerism? When you really think about it, I'm not a particularly religious person. I grew up with Christmas being the way Christmas is, and that's what it is, you know. When you really think about it, how did it become all about consumerism, about buying, spending? Like the whole of Christmas, like, isn't it some statistic like the majority of shops are in the red right up until the Christmas season, and that's when they get out of the red at the end of the year. That's when they make their money on their balance sheets, because it's all like Christmas dinner costs a fortune. You have to buy 1,000,001 presents for 1,000,001 people, most of which people don't even want. You know what I mean? It's
socks.
Yeah.
Great.
Actually,
I'll put that with the other 300 pairs.
I quite like getting pants and socks for Christmas, so I'll be honest. But
not when you're a kid, though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know you mean. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll put that.
Clothes.
Yeah.
Those things you're legally obliged to buy me.
I can't fire my T-shirt. I want something I can fire at my siblings.
But yeah, I mean, so that it's true. Like, I mean, I'm not a religious person particularly. I don't think. You know, I mean, I'm vaguely fascinated by religion, though. I kind of wish I believed in it most of the time, because it seems like quite a comforting belief to have. But that aside, I do sort of think like the sort of notion of Christmas, that sort of families getting together and enjoying a meal and being thankful or whatever, and all of those sorts, that notion, peace on earth, well, it's a nice message, whether you're religious or not. Everyone can get on board with that, can't they? And like that sort of Dickens-esque romanticism idea we have of Christmas in this country, where it's always snowing, and you know, and it's about
where we live, where I live, never once has it snowed at Christmas.
Do you know why that is? Is what I got told once. Is when Dickens was a child, like growing up, Britain went through like one of those, you know, like El Nino type weather events things, where it was like a mini ice age, where it snowed every Christmas for like 5 years, 10 years, whatever it was. So he grew up thinking Christmas is always snowy, and that's where that sort of romanticism of Christmas being snowy comes from. It's just based on the fact that there was like a weird weather event for about 10 years when he was a kid, you know. But all of that stuff, I think like that sort of, that notion of Christmas it's a good thing. We can all get on by that sense of redemption, that sense of like forgiveness or just peace and generosity to those less fortunate for you. There's nothing wrong with that message at all. It's not really what Christmas is about. It is about consumerism. It's about getting. He says it in like everyone's getting one of these toys, and whoever doesn't, it's going to be a real loser. This is how it works when you're a kid, isn't it? You know what I mean? He said, "Well, that definitely won't be you, Jamie. We've got to Jamaica."
Definitely doesn't snow there during Christmas.
So yeah, that's the general message of the movie. It's like, this is not really what it's about. Spend time with your family. You know, it's just good. It is what you want in a Christmas movie. You want a good message. Good Christmas movies always come with a good, heavy dose of sugary, schmaltzy messaging.
And this film has that, you know.
It has it in spades.
He gets it, you know, when he becomes Turbo Man. Jamie realises, and he realises that actually it's not about the toy, it's about spending time with your loved ones. You know,
I've
having
got the
those
real
moments.
Turbo Man at home. Then hands Sinbad the Turbo Man doll, which is very nice. It's a nice Christmassy touch. That's what Christmas is about. Although Sinbad's now off to prison and he's not going to have a chance to give that Turbo Man.
I mean,
doll.
let's be honest. You know, if a mailman done a bomb threat,
and child endangerment.
Yeah,
there's a great scene when Jake Lloyd kicks him in the nuts, though. Just such a satisfying scene, square in the nuts. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it has, like I say, I find it difficult to pinpoint why I don't like this movie. I just know I don't. Like I say, for the reasons I've mentioned, you know. On paper, it's got everything you need. It's got that schmaltz, it's got everything. And it's got Arnie saying Turbo Man a lot, you know. I've had it with this Turbo Man. Great stuff, you know what I mean?
I can feel you warming to it.
I'll watch it next year and I'll let you know. We'll put a little
and that's all. That's
recap at next year's Christmas episode. You can ask me if I've rewatched. I want to call it Turbo Man. If I've rewatched Jingle All The Way, We'll catch up on it again next year. Yeah.
And I think that for Christmas films, obviously, we look for things to talk about. We look at films in a slightly different way from the average consumer. And I think there's an element of, if you stick it on in the background, you don't necessarily have to be watching it 100% with all of your attention. There's enough fun in there. There's enough lightheartedness. There's enough festive cheer, Christmas-iness to tide you over.
100% agree. This film is much better if you don't really watch it. God, that'd stay fashionable.
I thought we were getting somewhere.
I also agree with you. It is very much reminiscent of Christmas, as in it's disappointing. Some films I do not. I do take your point. Some films are the sort of movies you just have on in the background. Usually films you've seen a lot. And Christmas Day is about not really paying attention to what's on the telly, really, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Usually put a bit of magic on the TV. Yeah. Have them Christmas song countdowns.
So, like you were saying, this film is like much maligned, I guess, is what you're saying. It's controversial, as in it's not well liked. Is that right?
Put it this way. I knew when I picked it, I don't think this is going to go down well. Yeah. And
so why is it? So what is the do you know what the criticisms are that people level at it?
I think it, generally speaking, I think it's probably for the things that you've said. It kind of misses the point. It feels a bit forced.
Just misses the mark.
You know, and look, I get all of that, and I, to some extent, agree. I think sometimes it's all about the timing you watch a film, when you watch it. That is timing. When you watch a film, how you watch the film, who you watch the film with.
And what you're open to receiving at that point as well.
And the memories you create around that film.
Was it you that said to me, I think you said it was Quentin Tarantino said it, you're always trying to get back to that place when you first saw a movie or something like that.
Whenever you first watch a film, or you're always trying to get back to the feeling when you first watch that film, generally speaking. You know,
which is the problem they have when they've rebooted stuff, because everyone's like, it's not what it was when I was 6. It's like, nothing is, right? Yeah.
You know, and as I said right at the top of the episode, I watched this when I was about 6 or 7. I don't know if I watched it with my parents. I feel like I watched it with my grandparents. Not even like, let's put this on. Just it was on the TV, and I happened to watch it. That kind of thing may even have been nearer 2000 time, because it would have been on the telly or something. We didn't really buy videos or DVDs. And it's that kind of, that otherness that we can never quite put our finger on. I keep saying it, it's become a bit of a cliche in these episodes. Well, I can't quite put my finger on why I love this film. Much like you're saying, you can't quite put your finger on why you dislike this film, other than a couple of the things that you've mentioned.
Yeah, it is genuinely difficult to point to a reason why this film doesn't work for me. I just know it doesn't. Like I say, I land it squarely at the director's feet. It feels to me like everything needed another take. If they shot it in a month, that would explain it. If it was a cash cow to give Arnie 20 million, also explains it. But I don't think Arnie's the sort of person that would do a film that he didn't want to do just for the money, especially not at that point in his career.
Doesn't need to do it, does he?
Exactly. And I can well see him wanting to, like you say, wanted to play an ordinary person.
Wanted to play an ordinary family man.
Yeah. I can see that. And everything about this film should work. And perhaps like you're saying, if I'd seen it when I was younger, I probably wouldn't be so jaded about it, probably. So I'd take your point. Yeah. The more we talk about it, the more I have warm feelings for it, which is kind of interesting.
So if I just keep talking about it, just makes this episode go long. By the end, you're like, I mean, do we think it should have made more money? Okay, it's subjective as to whether or not you think it's a good film.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because
but should
obviously,
it made more?
Yeah, it had everything going for it.
There's no reason before you watch it.
And you only know it's rubbish after you've seen it. Yeah.
Like, okay, you can watch a trailer and you can go, I don't know if I'll watch that. But generally speaking, trailers they're not necessarily a film.
It's not what normally breaks or makes a
Nobody's
film.
Ever gone, I'm not seeing that because the trailer's awful. Really, it's usually a case of, I don't really like that.
It's a good point. I'd like to see the trailer for it, actually.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To see how it comes across in the trailer.
And I think it probably comes across quite well because it has, the composing and the score, which we haven't really talked about, fits very much. Take it out and you can put it over Home Alone and it fits very well because it has that.
Sort of that
one of the things that Christmas films are able to do, you put a little sleigh bell in there, you put a little bit
instant,
it just becomes Christmassy and you don't really have to do too much.
That's instant, isn't it? But they spent a lot of money on it, and there's the post-credit hidden scene at the end that sets it up for the sequel that they never made.
Which you can kind of understand when, as you said, they probably just about broke even.
But they were obviously expecting it to take off, and they put that little in for the little, like, the next step, it's a good little bit at the end of the film. But can't take it away from him. You're like, oh, that's kind of clever. I see what you did there. That's like, you're already thinking ahead. That's quite smart. But maybe it's that overconfidence. Maybe that's what ruins the movie. Maybe the whole movie was made with an overconfidence in their abilities. Maybe you need a bit of doubt. It makes you work a little bit harder, you know. If you're like, this is a home run, maybe you need that fear.
Maybe you simply need like a Chris Columbus, he produced it. Maybe you need him to step into the directing, you know.
Yeah.
Essentially, what I'm trying to get to, should this film be remade?
Right. Well, before we get to that, let's cover that now. Yeah, I mean, yes, going by your maxim of you remake films that should have been good that fall short, they should definitely be remade. I have to say, off the back of that, I started watching Jingle All The Way 2 after I watched Jingle All The Way. The sequel that came 14 years later or something, I think I got, with Larry the Cable Guy in it, I think I got about maybe 20 minutes in and turned it off. You know what I mean? Now,
so how bad can the first one really be?
In comparison, it's an amazing film.
There we go. It's perspective.
So, have you seen the sequel?
I know you do the editing, but I'm going to edit that line. It's amazing. And that's all I need. That's all I need.
That'd be the one you put on the movie poster.
No, I haven't seen. And I think part of that is because I'm happy having that just sit where it sits. I don't need a sequel to that. Okay, I said, should it be remade? I don't need anything more than that.
Yeah.
It sits there.
I would never have watched it.
Slightly hated pedestal for me.
Yeah, well, I would never have watched it had we not been going to record this. And I watched the first one, and I was like, well, I've got time. And I was like, is this how you want to spend your time? You don't need to watch this film. And I ummed and ahed about it, and then went, I need to know now. You know what I mean? I'm curious. Like, because the sequel's like, I think 2014, or something like that.
Larry the Cable Guy is very 2010s.
So this is 96. I can't remember. I feel like it's 14 years later anyway, so I could be wrong on that. But yeah, it might be even longer. It might have been 2014 when it came out, which is crazy. So there's a long gap. So that's just like, let's get a movie out quick for Christmas, because that's what Disney does, you know what I mean? And
straight to DVD release,
as far as I could tell,
or straight to streaming, maybe.
Yeah, 2014-ish. Anyway, as far as I could tell, you might as well have called it anything else. I didn't get as far as they'd set up this is the must-have toy bit. The kid hadn't mentioned it at that point before I turned it off, but I was like, you essentially just have already remade the first film, but just called it number 2 because you've changed it enough. You know what I mean? Was not bearable. And I will say this about the first one: did I want to turn it off after 20 minutes? Maybe I might have wanted to turn off the first one after 20 minutes, but it wasn't like, oh, F this, I'm done. I honestly, it's interesting because, like you say, when we're going to record stuff for a podcast, you have to watch the movie. There's no way around it. So, like you say, and then you do, for better or worse, you will sort of pick it apart a bit. You know what I mean? But would I have turned it off if it was just on at Christmas? I would leave it on, like you say, if I was doing something else at the same time, for sure. like, it's not offensively bad, this movie. You know what I mean?
Which
Whereas the
is
second
a great
one was.
place to start, isn't it? You know.
The second one was quite offensively bad. But then maybe we'll be doing a podcast about that in 10 years. Well, actually, it's not as bad as I thought. You know what I mean? I don't know. I will. Does it need remaking? No, I think they already did with the sequel, and I couldn't get through that. What? So I'm guessing you don't think it needs remaking.
I don't think it does. I think it sits.
I think they should just let it die.
I think it sits perfectly nicely in that. You know, we spoke earlier about Die Hard being a film you can watch at any time of the year. Obviously, this is so far into a Christmas movie. Don't get me wrong. The reason I chose this movie wasn't because it's my favourite Christmas movie. It's not.
Liar.
I chose it because I think it's a little bit underrated in the sense of there seems to be so much hate and dislike for it. I don't think it's that bad.
Is there really that much hate for it?
Everything I seem to have read is very much like, oh, this is terrible. How could Arnie do this? Very, very much not quite as positive as what you've been saying. In some cases, a lot worse. And I don't get it. Like, yeah, it's not a perfect film. It's not a great film, but put it on at Christmas in the background when you're opening presents or when you've got family over, and just tune in and out of it, and you've got those little set pieces and those little scenes. It's a perfectly good film to watch whilst you wait for your mate to return back home alone. And that may seem like I'm diminishing my love for it, but I'm not.
Yeah.
If you haven't got Home Alone, I would then go to this film.
I wouldn't. But
We've established that.
I'm sorry, I was just kind of pondering the notion that it's a good movie if you're not really watching it. I'm just not sure if it's the best advert for a film, but at the same time, I do know what you mean. I do understand what you're saying when you say
not
that.
Every film has to be good.
Yeah.
Like, I know that sounds such a stupid thing to say.
It doesn't have to be captivating.
Doesn't have to really do anything other than be on. Like,
because I'm like that with movies.
Don't get me
I've
wrong.
seen.
I wouldn't spend 60 million on the film for that. If you spent 60 million, you're kind of hoping everybody thinks it's the greatest Christmas film ever made.
Yeah. But that's it. So, I mean, I'm like that with movies I've seen a lot. I like. And sometimes I'll just leave them on while I'm doing something else. I'm just going to let that play because, like, I like the movie, but I don't need to watch it. But I just, you know, like you say, you know when the good bits are coming up and you'll watch. So I get that notion. I'm just trying to think of other Christmas movies, really. I do, yeah. I understand where you're coming from with it. I dislike being in the position of shitting on anyone's movie, really. It's not really how I get down. I don't like shitting on stuff. But I have to be honest, when I was watching this movie, I was like, this is a bad film. I will watch it again. I promise you I will watch it next Christmas. Or maybe this Christmas time.
And maybe with the advent of a newborn and a daughter in your life.
God, I'm going to have to watch this movie again at some point anyway, aren't I?
Yeah, baby. And if you don't, I'll watch it with her. But maybe that may warm you to it.
Maybe that's the difference. Now I've had a kid, maybe I'll be like, it'll ring true in some way, or I'll be less jaded and cynical when I watch it, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
So if we were going to suggest any further watching to our listeners, what would we
I like
suggest?
The fact we've just gone straight past what would normally be the lasting impact of this movie.
There's not going to be a lasting impact with this, really, is it? It's kind of been forgotten about for a lot of people.
I don't know. I didn't realise
it's that Christmas film with Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
That's how people really...
I didn't realise it was so maligned. You know what I mean? It makes sense. I've seen it, but... I didn't realise it was like one of those cultural moments, if you know what I mean, of like, that's a
I think perhaps it comes down to expectations, because as you say, on paper, that feels like it's going to be Home Alone, in that same ilk and in that same, what's better, Home Alone or Jingle All The Way? And it just isn't. It's not a patch on Home Alone. It's a very, 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 very distant second.
It just goes to show, like, as we keep saying,
Home Alone is.
Home Alone is a great movie.
Yeah.
It's John Hughes' film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was it his last film? I got a feeling it was his last film. But like,
Might well have been.
Home Alone is like, it broke so many records as well, though, right? Home Alone. I think it's like crazy the amount of money that film made. Not that money makes a film good or bad, like its budget, but it's still, it tells you something when a film is that stratospherically big. No, it just goes to show how, like, that's the mystifying thing about films. Is you just never know. Like, we were talking about Die Hard, like, on the last episode, and we mentioned it already today, where on paper you're like, this doesn't sound good, and then Die Hard's opening weekend, you're like, oh, this film's going to tank. The previews and the trailers where people were laughing and booing at Bruce Willis and that, and then, like, there's no one other than Bruce Willis, who isn't an action star at that point. There's no one in that film that anyone gives a monkeys about. Alan Rickman's first movie, all of those things on paper, this film should be terrible, and it's
great
40 odd years later as a classic, whereas this on paper should be great. It just misses the mark. That in itself is fascinating to me. Home Alone, there's not much difference on paper between this film and Home Alone, if you know what I mean, in sort of substance. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how it seems to me, and yet Home Alone works. That ineffable thing that we always talk about, and this falls short somehow,
I'm pretty sure I saw this before I saw Home Alone as well.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and maybe that may, because it was, as you say, it's a sideways step to Home Alone. Obviously nowhere near as good, but maybe that's why. And then Home Alone just...
I'm really drawn to the idea that it's the overconfidence they had in it that ruined it. I'm really drawn to that as a concept, that what you need is a bit of doubt to make a good movie, and time. Like you say, filmed in a month, it's not a long time to film a movie.
You kind of think, like, if...
You want at least 6, didn't you?
If you work on a film and you're going into it with, like, oh, yeah, this is going to be a hit, this is going to be a hit.
It's kiss of death, isn't it?
Yeah, because you're not going to focus on... We've got to make sure this is right.
Yeah,
We've got to make sure that scene where you're holding your hands and looking sorry for yourself, it looks stupid at the moment. Can we do another take? You're not doing that because you're like, it'll be fine. We've got Schwarzenegger in a Christmas movie.
Also, we've got all these other scenes that are also going to be great. Everything about this movie is great. It doesn't matter if that thing's not perfect. And then you end up making everything not perfect, as in you don't push it to the point where you get it exactly right. You end up just going, that's good enough because this movie is going to work. And that's where you fall short. I think you need that.
I think complacency is the enemy of success.
Oh, it's beautiful, man. Yeah. Was that on the Arnie documentary or the Sly documentary?
That was on the Jingle All The Way documentary.
How does Arnie feel about the film? Has he ever spoken about it? Because he doesn't take having a flop very kindly. He takes it very personally. You know what I mean? It sends him into a bit of a depression, doesn't it?
I seem to recall him not necessarily feeling either way about it. Like, it just seems to be something he's done. He doesn't seem to, like, have too much time for thinking about it. It's not like, oh, I wish I'd made Jingle All The Way better than it was. I think he just kind of done it. I've done a Christmas movie.
He's kind of down on Running Man and Starsky and Hutch bloke, the director. Starsky or Hutch, I can't remember which one he is. He's kind of down on that as a movie. It's a shame because I think it's a good movie. I've never heard him talk about the Twins sort of sequel. What was it, Junior? Which that didn't go down too well. And I think whereas Twins was such a good movie and Junior's a bit off. Again, on paper, Twins is an amazing movie. On paper, Junior should work. It's kind of, the concept's crazy. That's kind of right up there. But in the execution of it, something falls short. And it's interesting how I actually don't know if that's made by the same director. Do you know what I mean? But same thing happened with Fish Called Wanda. The sequel, I think, was Fierce Creatures. Same cast, same director, everything. Film just falls short. That again, I wonder if it's the overconfidence. But yeah, I don't know. I just wondered how you feel about if he's ever spoken about it. You know?
I've not seen anything of him speaking about it.
It probably tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Really. He probably doesn't get asked about it much. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to be one of his classic movies, which in theory, an Arnold Schwarzenegger Christmas movie could have been in one of his classic movies, couldn't it? Like Kindergarten Cop. So good. See, Kindergarten Cop feels like a Christmas movie to me as well. I think it's just because like a lot of films are on at Christmas, aren't they? You know.
I love Kindergarten Cop.
It's so good.
Like, it's just, you know, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger, for the most part, in family comedy humour, is great. I think he perhaps doesn't get as enough credit for that. Obviously, he gets credit for being one of the biggest action stars, if not the biggest action star of, 80s, potentially 90s.
Of a generation.
You know.
Yeah.
I don't think people
Probably
give
one
enough
of the biggest
credit for
action
those.
stars ever, really, isn't he? You know what I
He
mean?
redefined it.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden it was, you know, you had Stallone, you had Schwarzenegger, and it was like, so Schwarzenegger's going to do this film, and then Stallone's got to top it. And I think that's what made Arnie quite as good, is because he had that.
He has to have someone to compete against.
That's what he says,
That's
yeah.
how he works, isn't it? Yeah. It just
And
makes sense. You know what I mean?
And, you know.
But he doesn't really do. I mean, he still makes the odd movie, Arnie, doesn't he? But he doesn't seem to do comedies anymore. I feel like he's just reliant more on those sort of I don't want to call them B movies, but they're sort of he doesn't do big movies anymore. Those days are past. He's in his 70s now or 80s. Or something.
He can't really do what he was.
Apart from the old Terminator film, they wheel him out for a Terminator, don't they? You know what I mean?
I have images of him literally being wheeled out on a pallet crate.
Yeah. From the odd Terminator movie, he's sort of the Expendables end of the DVD rack, in it. You know what I mean? Straight to DVD kind of movies.
He did
straight to streaming services.
He did star in Around the World in 80 Days with Steve Coogan.
Oh, I even forgot that film existed. When was that? That's a while ago now, isn't it?
2002.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. So I'm sort of talking now, after he came out of politics and he went back to making films, he sort of just started leaning heavily. I haven't watched a lot of them. Like, I wanted to watch the zombie movie he did, but someone told me that wasn't very good.
Maggie?
Maggie? Something like that, right? Yeah.
I think Mandy's the Nicolas Cage one.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, I wanted to watch that because he's got a beard in that as well. And there's not many films with Arnie with a beard. We've discussed this before, haven't we? Oh, Kindergarten Cop, he's got a beard at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got a beard.
He's got a beard in The Running Man.
The Running Man.
Has a slight beard in Last Action Hero.
It's like stubble, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because bearded Arnie, we've discussed this before, it's great. You can't beat bearded Arnie.
Like,
yeah.
We need more of it.
Yeah.
Like,
so I think like his latter films, you see him with the beard more often, I think.
I feel like if you could go back and change anything about the vast majority of his films, put a beard on him, instantly better.
Yeah.
You know,
Especially
I'm not talking ZZ Top beard, I'm talking...
Especially in this film, because apparently he did look quite old in this film.
Well, that is actually the consensus, apparently.
According to my notes, he looked a bit old. Yeah. So, with further watching, is that where we're at? Or something?
Yeah, so I think Home Alone is the next step. I would say watch this one first. Otherwise, if you go from Home Alone to Jingle All The Way, naturally you're going to think this is probably even worse than I believe it is. I think Christmas-wise, I think if you want just fun, family-friendly stuff, I don't think you can beat Home Alone.
Home Alone, would you say Home Alone is the Christmas movie? It's got up there, isn't it?
I would say that is the epitome of Christmas films.
It's definitely up there, isn't it?
Like,
it's hard to think of one that does it better in that sort of vein of Christmas movies. Home Alone, obviously, Home Alone's on my list of further watching.
I mean, that was going to be when we first spoke about doing Christmas films, I was going to go Home Alone. And the reason I didn't is one, because I thought, it's probably the obvious one. And I wanted to, not always, let's try and innovate as opposed to copy and just do the ones that everybody's done before.
Do you think we are the only people that have ever done
I would hesitate to say that
Jingle All The Way.
I hope we are. For anybody listening, if you know of another Jingle All The Way podcast, then let us know on any of our socials. But I'd like to think that we're the first.
Now I feel bad how much I was handbagging it. People were like, finally finally someone's done an episode in Jingle All The Way, and the first thing in that episode is me going, this movie's dog turd. But if you made it through to the end, you'll hear me change my mind almost. You hear me warm to it slightly anyway.
You don't seem quite as angry. Like, I think the element of he's made me watch this film has died off now.
Yeah.
We've got past that, and now it's a bit more, okay.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
I have achieved everything I set out to.
I'll be honest, recording this episode has left me going, I will have to watch it again out of curiosity now. Now I've spent like an hour and a half talking about it or something. I wonder if it's as bad as I think it is, or whether it's, one of those things. Plus, if everybody else hates it, it makes me kind of want to like it in a weird way. You know what I mean? Because the general public are morons.
Smash the system.
So I got further watching Home Alone. Scrooged, your favourite movie. If you really want good Christmas fare, the 1987 cartoon of Garfield, the Christmas one's pretty good. As is Charlie Brown's Christmas, which is a old-timey classic. I would go Muppets Christmas Carol for a Christmas movie because it's just so good.
I feel like I'm going to offend you right now.
You don't like it?
I've not seen it.
Oh, right. You probably hate it. You're probably too old for it. I saw it when it came out, I think. Yeah.
I don't know what... I mean...
It's got Michael Caine playing Ebenezer Scrooge opposite Muppets.
I'll make a promise to you. I will watch it.
Yeah. I mean, to see what you think.
Yeah.
And we'll reconvene next year. Just become an annual thing.
And I will start that episode saying this is an absolute turd of a movie.
Yeah. So I really like that. And I don't like movies with singing in, but I do like movies with Muppets in. So it's all good. Gremlins, obviously another Christopher Columbus movie. Great Christmas movie. Definitely up there with one of the best Christmas movies. And I don't really know why this is on here. For Trading Places again, which I said last week.
Are you like trying to market that film or something? Have you got a stake in it?
I don't even know. It makes no sense in the context of this movie to say, if you like this, go watch Trading Places. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I have no idea why that's written there. I probably wrote it on the wrong thing. I was probably thinking about something else. Yeah. I think that's it. I mean, further watching wise, I can't. Most Christmas films are very similar. You know what I mean? They're all of alike.
Very formulaic.
Yeah. I think Gremlins, Muppets Christmas Carol, Home Alone. Yeah, probably the best. It's probably the best of the bunch there. And then, of course, this movie. Just underneath that is this movie.
Not that it's anything like this movie, but another great Christmas movie I feel is Love Actually. Like I'm a sucker for a bit of a weeper one. You said earlier you like rom-coms. Like this one has got it all.
I must confess, I actually think it's quite a good movie. It's far too long. And it needs some
third act needs a bit of tidying up. Yeah.
Richard Curtis did say I wanted to see if I could write like 5 of the same movie and put it all in the same movie sort of things. 5 different stories, rom-coms, and put it all in one movie. And there is an element of that. Really well done. Richard Curtis is a great writer.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Obviously Blackadder being where he is most famous. Him and Rowan Atkinson wrote the first one, and him and Ben Elton did the rest of the Blackadders, where Richard Curtis comes from. And
4 Weddings and a Funeral as well.
I could say endless rom-coms is what he became famous for, wasn't it? But yeah, I actually think Love Actually is a great movie, just too long. But it is and that's a Christmassy movie, yeah, for sure.
100% Christmas.
For sure, yeah. I think I saw that at the cinema,
Well.
Oddly, not with my girlfriend.
Just on your own.
I think she just...
I'm going to see that one,
I think she just dumped me, actually. Sit there watching a romantic comedy going, well, this sucks. Why am I so alone at Christmas? It's because you've got a heart of stone.
As we've established from your thoughts on Jingle All The Way.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else really I would recommend. I think Home Alone, Love Actually, you mentioned a few others, Gremlins. I think
Very nearly did Gremlins for our Christmas month of episodes.
You never know. Next Christmas we can tackle those films.
Good evening and welcome to Inside the Actor's Mind, the show that delves deep into the psyche to find out what makes a great character, a great performance, and what makes a great actor. I am Julius Oxbridge Teeth III. Join me as we go deep into the actor's mind. I'm Julius Oxbridge Teeth III. Won't you join me next week as we go deep into the actor's mind?
So there we have it. Not only is this the end of the episode, but it's also the end of season 1 of Bury Our Bones With. We want to thank everyone who has listened to us ramble on over the past 12 episodes. We really do appreciate you choosing to spend your time with us. We will return in 2024 with season 2, so be sure to check our socials for any updates. On that note, we want to wish everybody listening a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? Sleigh bells ring, I've forgotten the words again. Yeah. Walking around, listening in town. I literally need to listen to the lyrics of that song. Winter Wonderland. Well, we did it. We finished episode. We finished season 1.
I'm kind of not looking forward to listening to it back now. Hopefully it's all right.
Okay, let's go.
Well, I thought if I stopped talking, that'd be a good place to end.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might just keep talking otherwise.
I'm surprised we got that much out of it.
I feel like the end drags a bit.
I said further watching about 20 minutes ago.